What's going on YouTube? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Welcome to Also Simplified, coming to you with the video here about don't wait to be successful to have a life, hobbies and goals. And this one, as always, but before that, like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you don't like, leave negative comments, positive comments, any feedback will do. And this one really is coming out of something I just did. I just did a jujitsu tournament, hadn't done one in a while. If you've been watching the channel, I do, you know, practice mixed martial arts. I compete in MMA, uh, do jujitsu here and there. Did a tournament on the weekend. And I thought it was something that kind of brought this video to life. So first off, um, in this idea is that obviously if you're watching my channel, any of my stuff is resonating. Being goal oriented is probably one of the topics that is resonating, and while you're looking at it, somebody that is kind of still on the path, not necessarily made it in any kind of real capacity, but that's where my mind's at. But being goal oriented doesn't necessarily mean you should neglect all other areas of your life. I'm definitely a person that can kind of lock down, get very narrow minded, but I'm very happy that I've chosen different hobbies and different things, a lot around fitness. Um, that I feel like have added to my perspective, added to my life, given me things that I can talk about. And the first thing is that it can be very beneficial to whatever your purpose is, whether you're kind of locked in a particular career, you're in my kind of position where you're looking to find a way to kind of break out into something else. What it does is it gives you an outlet to be creative in something else that is intrinsically um, beneficial to you, and with that can charge the different view that you have into the other things that you're doing. So just to use like a work example, and using my mixed martial arts, there's many times that, you know, maybe I had a hard day at work, that when I go and I do mixed martial arts, I feel some sort of success. I can kind of ride that momentum into the next thing that I'm doing. It's something that, kind of boosts yourself, allows you to feel good about yourself. And even if something, I mean, I guess that was the situation, something bad happened in another realm, you have this thing that can bring you up or can take your mind off of things. I know when I was laid off for a period of time, almost a year, mixed martial arts, really where I started taking fights, was the number one thing that took my mind off of things and allowed me to keep just living in a mindset of more positivity than stewing on the things that weren't necessarily working out and being very myopic there. I also think it can be a great metaphor for your life. And what we could start with is just, the way we're going to be attacking goals. So I'm gonna give you guys a little clip of, my jujitsu tournament. This was the 185 finals, had to go up. There's nobody in my weight at purple belt, but this is the way we attacking goals this year. We grabbing them by the neck, and we just choking them out. We choking them out all the way until they done, until they completely out and convulsing and giving the little shocks, the involuntary twitches, and then waking up like the Undertaker. That's the way we going after goals today. So that was me. Won the gold in the no gi. Didn't do so well in the gi. Ain't gonna show you any videos of that. But your hobbies can be a great metaphor for life. Once again, me watching that, that's a great feeling just to see, things that I've put a lot of time into. Um, there is kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. And the last thing on this first part about goal oriented doesn't mean neglecting all areas of your life is that even if you're attacking goals head on, you do want to have some depth to your character. Having hobbies, having other interests other than one singular interest adds depth to your character. And I think adds a little bit of nuance to your perspective in the way that you approach things every day. Now let's kind of get to, one thing that's very important to me, but very relevant for the times that we live in. Hobbies can be a profitable, experience, a thing that you can profit off of. You can make money in this day and age. Everybody has a particular interest that they can turn into money. There's plenty of MMA channels. Now, part of it for me is I got to take action on it. This is my first channel, the one that I'm kind of using as the springboard to increase the momentum. But once again, this is almost like having a hobby or having a another outlet as opposed to the one that's going to be very niche down, very branded. And this is just kind of talking to the video, but having that idea that your hobbies can be a profit, that there is a way for you to monetize this. It's not just a waste of time. So whatever you really are interested in doing. Now, I mean, I guess video games or the streaming, I would say try to pick things that are a little bit less easy in terms of barrier of entry. Like to be very good at jujitsu does take some work, even though a lot of people do like martial arts. Being actually good at it takes some effort. That's a way that you can get up. I guess you could do the same with video games. I digress. But looking at your hobbies, looking at ways that you can monetize them, and then turn them into more of a purpose, more of a thing that you're really spending your time doing, even if you didn't necessarily go on a track where like Mozart, he knew he was going to be a piano player since the age of 5. Messi knew he was going to be a soccer player since like the age of 6, things like that. You don't necessarily have to be that person in this day and age. There's always ways to make money off your hobbies, which can then grow them into something else, and kind of ties into that first piece that necessarily your first goals and first ideas of things might not really be where they end. If you look at a lot of businesses, almost never is their first intended use of the product the use that it ends up having when it picks up with consumers. And it's the same for your life. The first interest that you may have, I never knew wrestling was going to take me to this direction. Once again, I do a lot of screen shares on for my job today, which I'm going to get into in this next piece. But it allows me to have a lot easier time just talking off the top of the dome here, and then also doing screen share types things with the recent types of videos that I've created. I'm like, why don't I combine those together? But having hobbies is something that you can make money on. There's a way that you can transition it. So having your life is something important, not only for the intrinsic value, but you can get some extrinsic value from it too by creating it into a profitable vehicle. And then, as I mentioned before, having hobbies, having other things that you do other than just necessarily work and go to the gym is, and some people it's just work. They don't even have to go to the gym part. It makes you a more well-rounded person. I'm definitely into that concept of the renaissance man, being good at a lot of things, being interested, knowing a lot of different things. But that's really it for this one. That you can make the hobbies a profit. The next point I'm going to talk on is about like the monk mode and balance and things of that. I am not really one of these people that thinks that you should strive for balance in the way that a lot of people say. They kind of make it seem like you should do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think there are definitely times that make a lot of sense to have extremes in life, to be very extreme in what you're doing. But understand that extremes can be balanced by more extremes. So, you don't have to balance things by pulling weight off. You can increase weight on both sides. Now, you don't want to burn yourself out, obviously, in certain things, but I think in general, one thing that I've seen for myself, it's like no matter what I do, I'm tired. No matter what I do, I feel somewhat worn out. That increasing my activity and decreasing my activity is more a question of courage and discipline to stay to what the intended plan is than an actual energy bandwidth that I can actually do little bit and feel like I did a whole day's work and do a lot of bit and feel like I did a whole day's work. It's just when I do the lot of bit, it's a little easier to sleep because I know I accomplished a lot. So I think a lot of these monk modes and these balances sometimes are used as kind of a cop out to just decrease your action. And then also in terms of like the true monk mode type of archetype where they're like, cut away from everything, no talking to no girls, no fucking going on any online, no doing nothing and kind of just going away. I think one, a lot of it always is kind of in that is kind of connected to no fap and things of that nature, where that is one piece of it. But I think the stronger piece of it and the point of it is more so for you to get a knowledge of yourself. That is what meditation is getting familiar with. So you're getting familiar with yourself. Like that's the definition of what meditation means. And ultimately that familiar with should lead to some sort of action when it's done. Like once you realize, okay, I've been getting distracted and pulled here, there, and all around. Once you can kind of center, you should now see what direction you should go. And then the pure monk mode, in terms of like the truthness of the word, maybe you go to your monkdom and you just become a person who tries to eradicate desires, and that's the action and the path that you need to go on. Or you realize this is the path and this is what I'm about and this is what I should go on. So really it should ultimately lead to a path that you should then be able to double down on, which should include a full life, not a waiting for life until I get the success and get to this point, because maybe you'll never feel that point. And from being Buddhist, that is kind of like a main concept, that you never actually fulfill the desires. Whatever desire you fulfill immediately becomes a new desire right after. So what's the point in waiting? Build a life that's integrated, that can actually feed yourself as you're on the journey of ascent. And that leads to the last point, which is building an integrated life. More than ever, I've just recently turned 34. If you've been watching this channel, you guys have basically could document a little bit like my whole journey for the last 10 years, and just the things I was doing, the things I was talking about, how I'm kind of approaching as a person, as a man. And more than ever, I see all of the skills that I've developed over the last decade or even more are all coming together, whether it's the sales skills, the ability to communicate and speak and elocute myself in a particular way, do the screen share, not be very intimidated by learning softwares to an extent. Then on the fitness side, between doing the MMA, if you watch a lot of early videos, I was doing a lot of calisthenics, so I have ability there. I'm very interested in yoga, do that pretty consistently, that I have these modalities that I can dive into whenever I need to. Plus my understanding of like history and things like that from all of the book reviews I did from early on in this channel. And then just my obsession with YouTube and understanding where things are going, what tools you can use, and really just having that ability where it's like I almost feel like it's kind of my game to lose. If I can just be super consistent and act and have the courage daily and discipline daily to fit this into the full schedule that I have, I know everything. Like all of my skills and knowledge are kind of coming all together. And then the days that I put that action in are the days that I ultimately feel the best about myself. And for me on this channel and just YouTube in general, for definitely this quarter, but this whole year is more about action and execution over necessarily perfection. Really, the idea of just getting this one up. Wanted Took me a while to kind of figure out a way to get this video up, but I'm happy that I could include that. Want to put a little bit of just who I am as a person on another realm in there, but that's really it for this one. Don't wait for your success to have a life. Your hobbies and goals can be intermingled. Build that integrated life. Monk mode is more about getting to know yourself than necessarily just separating from everybody else. Balance is not necessarily a myth, but balance doesn't mean you have to pull back from everything. You can increase two things on two sides, and balance will be equated. Your hobbies, they can turn into profit. They're not a waste of time. They give you depth of character. They help with your perspective, help you understand other things. And then lastly, being goal oriented doesn't mean you need to neglect all other areas of your life. Your goals should be an integrated, holistic view of achieving the things that you want in your life as you move forward. So that's really it for this one. If you like the content, like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you didn't like. Any feedback will do. And until next time, you know what it is. Peace out.